family. How are you doing here again on another Tuesday night with my beloved Anna and A Course in Miracles and Spirit to lead the way?
Always.
We've already done our prayer today, shortly before class, asking Spirit, as always, what would you have us read tonight? And you know, demonstrating that very practice is what A Course in Miracles is trying to teach us to do all the time. It's just that simple. And that way, Anna and I are released of this burden of looking through the book, wondering and pondering, should we read this, should we read that? Oh, I'm not in the mood for this. Oh, I'm in the mood for that.
Definitely not that section.
You think if my moods affected what we read, it might affect the outcome of the class? But yet, it's just a demonstration of how we try to do more and more all of our life is, what would you have us do, Spirit?
Yeah.
You know, what would you have us do? Today we're getting ready to travel back to Colorado. Yay! We'll be able to be close back with our family and friends once again for at least a season of time that we know of. And so we're very excited about that, and we've been looking at properties out there. And you know, and I don't have to tell you what's going on, at least in the U.S., prices are going up, right? And it just seems so overwhelming with the cost of food we hear at the stores and at the restaurants, the shortages of items, and all this stuff going on. And it's real easy to get worked up in it, to get caught up in it, and to be swept away in this world of this heavy burden that we carry around of making choices, making decisions. This choice that I need to make. Should I get this kind of property? Should I get this kind of property? And the more that I let that burden rest on me, the heavier it gets. Until Spirit comes along and reminds me, hey, it's like in the movie we watched the other day, this guy traveling through the forest, and he was an older man, and you know, the younger guy, twice his size, takes his backpack and he goes, I got that, and he goes, we got 2 miles to go. And that's what Spirit's doing to us, is Spirit's going, give me that burden you got on making the decisions all the time. And the decisions you're making aren't working out very well anyway, so just give them over to Spirit. Give them over, give your decisions that you're always trying to make, give those decisions over to Spirit. Just try that for a change, and then we won't be so burdened down. I got really burdened down today because I was thinking of all the decisions that I need to make about the kind of house we're getting, the area, the cost of it, the affordability with the cost of things now in life. How is this all going to work out? Well, I should be petrified if I am the one making the decisions. But when I turn that burden over to Spirit and say, and I can start using it with everything in my life, all the way down to what Anna and I are trying to demonstrate when we say, we don't want that burden of decision. What would you have us read? And so after we said that prayer, giving it over to Spirit, what we should read tonight, we came up with chapter 21.
Spirit, through the random number generator, Spirit chose
Chapter 21, section 6.
What reason tells you. So in the unedited book, it is chapter 21, section 6, and it's called What Reason Tells You. And in the Foundation for Inner Peace blue covered edition, it is chapter 21, section 6, Reason versus Madness. So in this section, A Course in Miracles is talking about there are two opposite belief systems. There's two opposite belief systems, only two that are in our minds, And one of those belief systems, Course in Miracles calls madness, and the other belief system that's in our mind, Course in Miracles calls reason. And so it's going to be comparing the differences, or contrasting the differences between madness, what madness says, what madness does, what madness looks like, feels like, says, in case we didn't know, and then also what does reason, what does God's logic, what does Spirit's logic say, what does it do, how does it perceive things. And so it's going to contrast those two different belief systems so that we can better choose, so that we can more wisely choose which belief system we want to go for, in our lives, in our choices.
And how much better would it be to learn to make our decisions based on a belief system of love, and not a belief system of madness.
Yes, exactly. There's madness, and then there's love's reason, or love's logic. How love thinks. It's God's truth, God's logic, God's reason, love's reason. And so it's going to tell us how reason thinks and what reason tells us. It's also going to show us and tell us how madness thinks and what madness tells us, so that when we hear what madness tells us, we can go, that's what madness says, and I don't want to experience madness anymore because it hurts. It's painful. It's terrifying. I don't want to be insane anymore. Insanity is, ignorance is not bliss. It's not blissful to be insane. It's not blissful to not have a reason dominating your thinking. It's painful. Of Course in Miracles says if you're experiencing anything but peace and joy, then you're not experiencing love's logic, love's truth. You're experiencing madness. It says pain and suffering and anger and confusion always goes with madness, and peace always goes with truth. In this section, truth, another word for truth is reason. So, which will help us to know whether we're insane or sane in any given moment.
All right.
Okay, so I'm going to read the paragraph, and then Greg and I will talk about it. And when I read A Course in Miracles, I've been teaching and studying A Course in Miracles for 35 years, and so when I know what the pronouns are, that it's not, when it says it or they or them or this, I know what the pronouns are that it's referring to, and so I often just fill in the pronoun. If it says it, I'll say what the it is. And so I just want you to know that if you're reading along with me and you see me putting in a word that you don't see on the page, just know that I am either giving a synonym that the Course in Miracles gives, a definition the Course itself gives, or I'm just putting in what the synonym is. Okay?
And that's a great point that you bring out. I often say Anna was my teacher coming into A Course in Miracles. And a lot of the words that she reads on the page, she says a different word than the word that you're reading. And as you're speaking that, I'm remembering that in my early days, I used to think, why is she doing that? And then you come to learn as you're reading A Course in Miracles. A Course in Miracles retranslates these words.
Yes.
But unless you know to go, 253 pages over to see where that's at in A Course in Miracles, you probably don't know yet, maybe, how that word has been translated by its own author, A Course in Miracles. So Anna, rightly so, after 35 years of reading, when she reads a lot of words, she's heard once, twice, 3, 4 times, multiple times,
millions of times,
one word being retranslated. Like in English, one word can have different meanings depending on how you're using it. And so She's not just making up words.
Not
I'm
making
just
anything
here to
up.
give you a testimony of what she's saying is very accurate and true. Is that don't get worked up when you see that translated word. Just realize that she's just pulling out of her toolbox of A Course in Miracles something that can help us understand that sentence better, because the Course has already retranslated that word. So she's giving us the translated word with the reason, with the reading, which makes it so helpful.
Exactly. It can save you time when you're not going, well, what does the it refer to? And who's the they that it's referring to? Sometimes you can get lost in the pronouns, and it'll say the word, and then the next three sentences it go it, they, and then you lose track. Well, what is the it? I lost track of that, 5 sentences ago. So I'm just filling in the pronouns for you so that you don't have to guess what it's referring to. So.
And also sometimes the words.
Exactly.
Like
Sometimes
if it
the
says
words.
salvation, you might say healing.
Exactly.
You might say happy.
Yes. Exactly.
One of the many different translated interpretations of what that word is.
Exactly. So I just wanted to share that. Not everybody's reading along, but if you are, I just wanted to share that with you to make it easier for you to follow along if you're doing that.
That sounds reasonable. How you're doing it.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Right on. And that's what we're looking for. What's reasonable? What's lovingly logical? Okay. What's God's logic? So, reason versus madness, and or what reason tells you. So it says, reason cannot see sin, but reason can see errors. And reason leads to errors correction. See, there's a pronoun there, and I just put in what that is. Errors correction. Reason doesn't see sin, but reason can see errors, and reason leads to errors correction. So when reason is looking upon something, when the eyes of reason, love's logic, is looking on something, it doesn't ever go sin, guilt, shame. When reason looks upon something, all it does is go, that's an error.
In other words, when reason looks on something, it doesn't see a need to punish.
That's right, exactly. Reason sees things as they are, and reason knows that there is no sin, so when it looks on something that ain't loving or happy, it knows it's not looking on sin or guilt. It knows it's looking on an error, and not only does it define it correctly, error, but it also goes, it also does what? It also leads to the correction of that error. So it doesn't just go error, it goes error and love. That's a call for love. Here's some love. That's what reason does. So we want to be allowing reason to look through our eyes to see what we're looking at. Reason, can you please tell me what you're seeing here? Because I'm about to interpret this in a terrifying way. So what are you seeing here, love? What are you seeing here, reason? What does this look like to you? So then it says that reason does not value the errors. Reason only values the correction of the errors. So it doesn't matter, it doesn't care what error you made. It don't matter to reason. All it cares about is its correction. That's all that matters. It doesn't emphasize the error that you made. It just focuses on the correction of your error. It says, but reason will also tell you when you think you sin, you're really just calling for help. That's what reason sees. You're not guilty. You're not shameful. You're just calling for help. That's all.
You don't need to be punished.
You don't need to be punished. You just need some correction. Right? And real correction is always loving. Okay? And if it's not loving, then it's just punishment and it ain't correction. Okay? Punishment doesn't correct errors. punishment makes errors seem like a sin. Now, yeah, go ahead.
One of the things I wanted to point out when I'm reading the Course sometimes, this very sentence, but reason will also tell you. So here's the author of A Course in Miracles telling us some truth.
Mm-hmm.
And that truth is that reason, this is what reason will do. Reason will also tell you when you think you sin, you're really just calling for help. And so you can also hear in this sentence, well, if that's what reason is, and we're talking about reason and madness during this episode here, well, then that would tell you that madness doesn't do that. Madness doesn't see you calling for help. Madness sees you doing something that's worthy of being punished or worthy of, some anger or resentment. You certainly don't see them as somebody just needing a helping hand and a help across the street.
Some loving correction.
And so sometimes when I'm reading, I'll be thinking, okay, well, those are the two subjects at hand, is reason and madness. And so right now, I love the Course. It's always telling us what everything is. It's telling us, it's going to tell us what madness is, it's going to tell us what reasoning is, because if we don't know both sides, then we get confused.
That's right.
And so, madness would do just the opposite of whatever we hear reasoning do tonight.
Beautiful.
I don't know if that helps anybody, but when I'm reading, that's one thing I'll usually start thinking of is, okay, if love does this, then obviously fear would do the opposite of what I'm hearing love would do.
Exactly. And all terms in the Course, all terms that you read, Holy Spirit, ego, madness, reason, love, fear, they all terms you see in the Course, they all come down to either love or fear. They're all synonyms for love or fear. Or you could say they're all synonyms for God or ego. So if you don't understand a term, like the atonement or resurrection or salvation or whatever, just know that it's either talking about love or fear, or God or ego. And so if you don't like a term, if a term is triggering for you because you have an old interpretation that you're putting onto it, just read the sentence and put in love or fear. And it will completely explain to you, then you'll get what it's really saying. So just remember that all terms in A Course in Miracles really just come down to love or fear or God or ego. Okay?
I love that.
Yeah,
it
simplifies it.
They can do that immediately in this. We're talking about, Spirit saying, let's be reasonable. What's reasonable? Not madness. Or as Anna just said, it'd be just as easy to say, let's talk from a perspective of love.
Yeah, what would love say?
Yeah, what would love say?
How would this look to love?
Love would be the same word, same family member as let's be reasonable.
Yes, exactly.
Let's be loving.
That's right. Let's be reasonable. Let's be loving. Exactly. And we often say, God, we really need we need reason to prevail here.
Right.
And that's what it means. We need love's judgment. We need love's judgment. How does love is always reasonable. Love is never insane. Love is not insane. Love is reasonable. Love is logical. Love is loving. And the Course is all about learning how to interpret like love does. And so we're learning, how does love interpret? How would love interpret this craziness going on? Okay, well, we just heard here that when love is allowed to look upon it, love says, they're not guilty. They're not guilty. They're not sinful. They're just mistaken. They're just in error, and they're just calling for help. They're not calling for punishment or destruction. When somebody's calling for help, it doesn't make sense to destroy them. When someone's calling for help, it only makes sense, it's only reasonable to help them, to, offer them loving correction. And so that's what we're learning about in this section. You know, love's reason. How love reasons things. Okay? Beautiful. It says, I'm going to say that sentence again. But reason will also tell you that when you think you sin, when you're feeling guilty because you think you sin, you're really just calling for help. Now, if you're calling for help, but you won't accept the help you're calling for, then guess what? You won't believe that help is yours to give. And if you don't believe that help is yours to give them, because you don't want to give it, then you're not going to give help, which means you're going to be maintaining the belief that help is not yours to give. Okay, so if when you're feeling guilty and hurt and upset, and you are calling for help, but you won't accept the help that you're calling for, then you won't know that help is yours to give. Okay? And so then you won't give help to others, thus maintaining your belief that you don't have help or that you haven't received help. So, you know, you can only truly give the help you have accepted. And if you haven't accepted the help you're asking for, then, you know, you're not going to see others as calling for help, and you're certainly not going to see yourself as having help to give.
Yeah, that help that is coming in for us is trying to demonstrate that we constantly always deserve to be happy. And we don't want to accept that belief. And because we're refusing to accept the belief that that's what the whole thing on sin is just a symbol, a word that means somebody needs to be punished. If they sinned, then they need to go to prison for so many years. They need to be punished. If they sin, they need to go to a place like hell or some place of torment or punishment or time out if, you know, they did something sinful. Sinful is the symbol that punishment needs to happen.
Punishment is
Well,
justified.
error is not the symbol of that. Error says, no punishment needed here. There was just an error. He didn't mean to poke her in the eye. It was just an error. No punishment needed. And so,
only correction needed.
only correction.
The Course in Miracles says the belief in sin calls for punishment, and error calls for correction, loving correction. So if it's just an error, then all you deserve is a loving correction. But if what you think you did is a sin and you're feeling guilty, then you're going to believe you deserve punishment. And Course in Miracles says that our belief in guilt, our perception of guilt, our feelings of guilt are an unconscious request for punishment. So if you're feeling guilty, which is the same as saying, I feel sinful, I feel like I sinned, you are literally unconsciously asking for punishment, you know, which means something that would hurt you, you know, in payment for that sin, you know. And thank God for Course in Miracles. It's like, no, that's not a sin, Anna. You don't need to feel guilty or ashamed of it. You just are mistaken and you just need correction. Isn't that more loving? That's what love says when you bring to love your pain and your upset. That's what love says. Love that is reasonable says, don't feel ashamed. It's just a mistake. Everybody's making mistakes here. You just need some correction, loving correction. I'd much rather have that.
And until you believe that, that you
That's
deserve
right.
that, and you keep believing that I don't need loving correction.
I don't
I
deserve
need
that.
punishment.
Yeah.
You know what I did? Well, until you believe that what you're doing in life at best, at worst I should say, is just an error.
Yes.
Until you believe that belief about yourself, what we're hearing here is you won't believe that's yours to give. In other words, when you make an error, my belief system tells me, just like me, you deserve punishment. You're not calling for help.
Right.
Just like I wasn't calling for help. I wasn't tripping on the rug and making an error. You didn't make a trip on the rug. You need to be punished. And so until we, as the Course says, accept the atonement for ourselves, stop believing that we deserve punishment, we're not going to be able to give to others the reason, the love that heaven wants to give them,
Yes.
to show them.
Exactly.
You just made an error, child, just like Greg has done before. And I was loving and helped him at that time. Both Greg and I are going to help you at this time.
Right. Yes, beautiful. So we want to be able to see our own errors as just errors, innocent errors, not sins, so that we can accept the correction that love is offering us, so that when others make errors around us, which they will and do, then we will actually have help to give them, that's when we offer help to others, that's the confirmation that we have help, So then it says, for uncorrected error of any kind deceives you about the power that is in you to make correction. It's a very powerful sentence there. So whatever error that I'm making, that I'm calling a sin, which means I'm not allowing for it to be corrected by love. Whatever sin, belief in sin I'm carrying about within myself is keeping from me the awareness of the power of correction I have within me. If I don't allow my errors to be seen as errors and be corrected by love, then I'm going to have a lot of errors within me I'm calling sin, that now I'll never know about the power to make correction that is within me. And so I'll be carrying around this heavy burden of errors that are just errors, but I'm calling them sin, so I'm not letting them be corrected. So I walk around feeling powerless and helpless in comparison to what I think of as my sins. So, we want to be allowing the vision of love to look on whatever we're struggling with, so that love can just identify them and interpret them correctly and go, that's just a mistake, and mistakes are for correction. Would you like a correction? Yes, I would. Well, wonderful. Here, let me take those from you and replace that with the truth. Let me lovingly correct that. Okay? Now I'm like, hey, I'm feeling pretty good, because I know that when I'm mistaken, which I'm gonna be for the rest of my life, but at least I know that when I'm mistaken, I can receive correction. There's a power in me to correct my mistakes. I don't have to worry about being perfect anymore. I don't have to worry about being wrong. I don't have to worry about making mistakes. What a relief that is. I don't have to be anxious that maybe I might make a mistake. Maybe I might make a mistake. So what? Yes, you are going to make a mistake. But now there's a power in you that can correct your errors very lovingly. So don't worry. Don't be anxious for whatever mistakes you may make in the future. It's a big relief. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to worry about not being perfect. You don't have to worry about not knowing everything about everything. It's a big relief, especially for those of us who are perfectionistic and hard on ourselves and anxious. Anxiety is, I don't know what could happen in the future, and I don't know if I have what it takes to handle it or fix it. That's anxiety. And this is saying you have a power within you to correct errors, and so you don't have to worry about making them. Because they can all be corrected.
Yeah, if they happen.
Yeah. So what?
So what, you have a built-in mechanism to fix it?
Yeah,
How wonderful.
exactly. And it says, so this power that's in you to make correction, if this power can correct, and you allow this power within you to not correct your errors, then you're denying this correction power to yourself and to each other and to others. So, I don't want to have this power of correction within me that I'm not using. You know, I have a power within me that can correct all my errors, but I'm not allowing it to correct my errors, because I'd rather keep my errors private and hidden as a secret sin. You know, I don't want to do that. I want to go, hey, I'm obviously making an error because I don't like the way I feel. So let me turn to the power that's within me to correct my errors and allow it to do so. Here's my error, love. Here it is. You know, and you know where you're mistaken by the places where you don't like how you feel, where you're upset or angry or hurt or afraid or terrified or sick or broke. That's where you're mistaken. Now, and if your brother or sister shares this same belief that you don't have a power to correct errors within you, then guess what? You'll both think that you're damned. You know, if they agree with you that they don't have a loving power to correct errors within them, then both of you alike are going to feel damned by your sins that you believe can't be corrected, because you're calling them sins, and you're not letting reason look at your errors. You know, you're going, that's a sin. I'm so ashamed. I'm so guilty, and I'm not going to let love look at them. I'm going to hide them. Okay, that leads to your errors not being corrected, and it leads to you feeling damned. Have you ever felt cursed? You ever felt like, well, I'm just cursed? You know, I'm just cursed. I guess I was born under a bad sign. I guess I don't know. You know, well, you know, that's why you might sometimes feel cursed or damned. That's because you're not allowing the errors that you've made to be corrected lovingly by love. And so you think that they are sins that can be corrected, that deserve punishment. Do you have anything within you that you feel ashamed about? Anything within you that you feel ashamed of, that you keep a secret even from yourself? You know, that's what it's talking about here. It's talking about those things within us that we feel ashamed of, that we think of as a sin and not an error, that we're not bringing to love for love or reason to look at and go, what do you say, love? Okay? But as soon as we take that thing we feel ashamed of and have been hiding even from ourselves, and we bring it to reason's light and reason's love, then reason will go, it's just an error and it can be corrected, and look, here's a correction. And now you're free from it. Now you don't have a lot of secret shames that you're hiding, which really make you sick. Okay. Okay, beautiful. That was paragraph 1.
Mm-hmm.
Any thoughts or comments on that?
Oh, so much.
So much.
I was telling Anna, it was funny, I was saying, I would really love it if we could get to the end of this section, because after we read it once, I reread it backwards from the last paragraph and just kept going back from the end. And the last part has so much, you know, when you get into the meat and potatoes of a dinner, that's where you're really cutting up the steak and taking some real chunky bites.
Juicy bits.
But what I hear the Spirit of the Lord telling us in this paragraph 1 as well, what Anna is sharing is this whole subject, I just keep hearing this whole subject of punishment, that you and I are so in madness, this mad idea that we deserve punishment, not correction, loving correction. You know, a loving hand helping us through, as Anna said, what that thing in our life is that we feel bad about. That we think when we think about it, we think, well, I deserve some bad karma.
We feel ashamed of
What's
it.
bad karma? Punishment. You know, I probably deserve some bad karma from that. Well, anything like that we believe, then we're limiting God from what God is able to do. We're saying, God, you're pretty big, you're pretty powerful, you're pretty strong, but you know, this one,
You can't correct this one, God.
I need to be punished. I need the karma to come back to me on this one. And we demonstrate that. We can't help our brothers and sisters out that share that same belief, that same mad, stupid, idiotic belief
Guilt and
that
punishment.
our God is so small that there could be something we could create, an error so big and magnificent that love's power can't just go, that's just an error. Let me help you out. Here's my helping hand. Not come over and push you down to the ground and go, stay down on the ground.
You should have known better.
Kick dirt in your face.
You should have known better.
And then throw some rocks at you and half stone you to death.
What an idiot.
What an idiot you are. Call you some names. And what? Try to make you feel bad. That's what punishment does. Is it tries to make you feel bad. And in A Course in Miracles, every time that we are feeling bad, we need to recognize, be awake, be aware, wake up, snap out of it. Every time you're feeling bad, be aware that you are entering into that old belief system that I deserve punishment. That's what punishment is the result of making me be feeling bad. I'm punished. What's the verdict, Your Honor? And then I'm sitting there wondering, am I going to be corrected or am I going to be punished?
Exactly.
And then it comes down, the verdict, 10 years in prison. Oh, and now I feel sad. Now I feel upset. All of the attributes that punishment brings. Damnation, loneliness, all of the attributes that punishment brings. And as soon as we recognize those, we need to recognize that's the problem, is a belief in an old belief system. And I need to let go of that, because until I do, I cannot be a miracle worker. Until I accept the atonement for myself,
Which is the correction for yourself.
thank you, then I cannot be a miracle worker. I cannot be a teacher of God. I cannot be a savior of the world, let alone the universe, because I haven't accepted the reason to be reasonable.
Reason's
That when you
correction.
make an error, you don't deserve punishment. You deserve help. You always deserve love.
Yes.
That's why no circumstance can ever be brought forth where you could build a case to say love is not deserving here. Love has nothing to do with this. Love cannot enter in here. There's nothing we can make that would make love not be able to come in, which is to say that correction, help, cannot come in. And once we accept that for ourselves, then we're spending so much time trying to be loving, trying to see others as innocent, and we're struggling with that. And the reason we're struggling with it is because we haven't accepted it for ourselves yet. And as it says here, when we deny ourselves, then we deny our brother.
Exactly.
And if our brother, our equal, our siblings, our brothers and sisters, shares this same belief, and they believe that same thing too, that they believe that they need to be punished, rather than everything is within the correction of love's power. If they believe that same thing, and I believe that same thing, we both are believing in the same philosophy that only punishment can fix things, only war can fix things, if that's what we believe, then we're both gonna think that we're damned.
Yep.
Because
And
now
that's
we're both in a place where love cannot enter.
Exactly.
That love has no business here, because it can't be corrected or fixed.
Yes. Beautiful. Now, both of us feeling damned by our so-called sins, he says, you could spare them and yourself
Yes,
that perception.
let's do it.
You could spare them and you the perception of feeling damned by the guilt and the shame within you both. Okay? The reason we could spare them and ourselves this perception of being damned is because reason would not make way for correction in us alone. So, reason does not make way for correction in us alone. Why is that? That's because correction cannot be accepted or refused by you without others. I'm going to say that again. Correction cannot be accepted or refused by you without others, without your brothers and sisters. Now, of course, sin would maintain that you can accept correction for yourself that they wouldn't benefit from. Okay? That's what sin says. Sin maintains, well, I can get correction without you benefiting, or you could get correction without me benefiting. That's what ego maintains. That's what sin believes. But reason tells you that you cannot see another or yourself as guilty and still see the other innocent. Wow. So that way, perception makes no exceptions. You know, you can't see something in yourself that you don't see in them. And you can't see something in them that you're not seeing in yourself. You know, why? Because we're one, we're connected. And that's what reason, that's what truth sees, that's what truth knows. That you can't see something in another. You can't see another or yourself as guilty and still see the other one innocent. You know, however you see yourself, that's how you see others. However you see others, that's how you see yourself. Now, you may think you can see something in them that you don't see in yourself and vice versa, but that's only your ego telling you that. Your ego who is ignorant. Right? So it's very important. It's very important to accept this. And that's what he says, correction cannot be accepted or refused by you without others. In other words, who looks upon themselves as guilty and sees a sinless world? How can you do that? How can you look upon yourself as guilty and see a sinless world?
When you're in the world.
Exactly.
The fact that you're in it and you think you're guilty just destroys the whole fact that the earth or world could be innocent.
Exactly. You can't see the world differently than how you see yourself. It's impossible. It's totally impossible. You can't say, well, I'm innocent and good and wonderful in a wicked world. You know, I am good and loving and innocent. They are evil, right? That's not at all how truth and love sees it, okay? You can't see others different than how you see yourself. Now, and it says, and who can see a sinful world and look upon themselves as apart from the sinful world? So if you see a sinful world, you can't help but see yourself as sinful. Okay? You can't see yourself and them as different. Now, you think you can. Sin tells you you can, but you can't. And that's because sin maintains, or we could say madness maintains, that you must be separate. That's what madness says. That's what madness, which is sin, believes, that you and them must be different, that you and them are separate and different. That's what madness tells you. But reason tells you that you and them being separate, you and the world being separate, must be wrong. That's what reason tells you. That whole perception that it's us and them and we're different, I can experience something and you not experience it right along with me, or vice versa, that's not true. That's not accurate. There is no us and them in that regard. How you see yourself, that's how you see the world. And how you see the world, that's how you see yourself. Right? And this is what reason tells us. This is what loving logic tells us. So, if you are joined, you and them, then how could it be that you have private thoughts? And how could thoughts that enter into what seems like your mind alone have no effect at all on what is part of your mind? Wow. If minds are joined, this is impossible. What's impossible? If minds are joined, you can't have any private thoughts, and neither can they. If minds are joined, it's not possible that something that enters my mind not have any effect on others who are also part of my mind. That's not possible if minds are joined. In other words, no one can think only for themselves. Woohoo! It's like the workbook lesson. I'm not alone in experiencing the effects of my thoughts. I am not alone in experiencing the effects of my thoughts. Why? Because minds are joined. Minds are joined. That's what A Course in Miracles is teaching us here. And if minds are joined, then there are no private thoughts. I remember when I first heard that, I hated that thought. I was terrified by that thought. I don't have any private thoughts. Oh my God. You know, that's terrifying. Because most of my thoughts were private.
Or so you thought.
Yeah, or so I thought. Or so I thought. I was wanting them to be private because I was feeling ashamed of them and calling them sin, because I really just wanted to keep them. But it wasn't the truth. If minds are joined, then it's impossible that what is in your mind not affect what all the other minds that are part of your mind. In other words, no one can think only for themselves, just like God doesn't think without us. So God doesn't have any private thoughts. You know, whatever enters God's mind affects us. You know, and that's true about us and others. Very deep, radical thoughts.
And one of the concepts with there are no private thoughts is if I believe that I deserve punishment, and I am accusing somebody of being an idiot and needing to be, they should be punished. You know, that those people that run that corporation, those greedy people, they deserve to be punished. My very verdict of that is my outward, out loud broadcast of my thoughts, of what I think about me.
Yes, that's right.
And that's in large part, you cannot help, the Course says, but to teach what you believe.
That's right.
Whatever you believe, you will constantly be teaching. And if I believe that I deserve punishment, the proof in what I think is how I treat others.
Yeah, that's right.
And if I treat others in a way that they deserve punishment, they deserve to be shown. I should show them.
And I'm the arbiter of that punishment.
I should show them a thing or two. Then
you're welcome, God.
it's literally me broadcasting to everyone that wants to hear it what I think about myself.
Yes, that's right. Yes.
I'm the type of person that needs to be shown a thing or two.
Exactly.
I'm so stupid. I'm always messing up.
Yes, exactly.
I'm the kind of person that needs to be punished.
Yes.
I'm the type of person that needs to be screamed at. yelled at, called names.
Put down.
Every
shamed.
single one of those is an outward testimony of an inward condition of what we believe about ourselves. And that's where the rubber meets the road. That's where the author of A Course in Miracles is trying to grab the steering wheel and say, why don't you learn to think a different way about yourself? And if you do, it'll change the way you treat others.
Exactly.
You'll start treating them the way that Creator intended them to be treated, because they will be seeing the way Creator sees you. The way Creator sees you.
Yes. Beautiful. Beautiful. Way to out your ego. Amazing.
Beautiful.
So it says, only if both us and God were in bodies could this be, that we could think without affecting them, or they could think without affecting us. Only if you and me were in bodies could we have private thoughts that don't affect the other person. You know, only if we were in bodies. Now it says, nor could one mind think only for itself unless the body were the mind. Because only bodies can be separate, and therefore bodies are unreal. So if we could think separately, if I could think thoughts privately that don't affect you, then that would mean that that the body was the mind, because only the bodies are separate. Bodies are separate. So if we think we can think separately without affecting each other, we're saying that we think that our mind is the body. Okay? Now it says, the home of madness cannot be the home of reason. Yet it is easy to leave the home of madness if you see reason. I love that. You know, are you experiencing madness right now? Are you experiencing upset and pain and hurt and anger, where where you're like, I'm mad? If you're experiencing madness right now in any form, here it's saying you can leave this madness, you can leave this upset, this painful perception. You can leave it if you can see, if you'll see reason, if you'll look and ask reason, love, what do you see? Love, how do you interpret this? What do you see going on here, love? You know, what do you see, reason?
So when I'm wanting to respond to my brother and sister with punishment, to try to remember to ask, oh, wait a minute, this is madness.
Yes.
And so,
yes.
What do you see?
Yes.
And then
You see love.
see what happens from there.
Exactly. And that's how you are able to leave the home of madness. You know, I love hearing that there is a way out of the madness. You know, whatever form that madness takes, whatever form that upset takes, there is a way to leave it, and it's left by allowing love to reinterpret for you what you're upset about, what you're seeing. It's so beautiful. That's easy. That's easy. Okay. It says you don't leave insanity by going somewhere else. You leave your insanity simply by accepting reason where madness was. Okay. I was totally insane and angry and hurt and offended and judgmental and plotting and planning some punishment, but I didn't like the way I felt, and so I could just simply accept reason where madness was. Some of us have been watching for years. It's beautiful. I didn't see that fully, William, but thank you for writing that. Beautiful. So it says you leave this upset simply by just accepting reason where your madness was. Okay? Madness and reason see the same things you're looking at. They're both looking at what you're looking at. But it is certain that madness and reason look upon what you're looking at very differently. They both have very different interpretation of what you're upset about. Okay?
One wants to punish and the other one wants to help.
Exactly, exactly. But isn't that interesting? Both reason and madness are both of them are looking at what you're upset about. Both of them. But like you said, one of them says, punish! And the other one goes, loving correction.
And because the punished one is, the ones that are usually yelling punish are usually screaming.
Yes, they're usually...
You don't see people go punish, punish. They go punish!
Yes, exactly.
Punish!
That's right.
Torture!
Yes.
Give them the death sentence! While love sits there going, just have
mercy.
Come on,
Have mercy. Well,
come
you've
on.
never been mistaken
Come
before.
on, we've all done that.
You never made that mistake before.
Come on.
Everybody's made that mistake. It's just a mistake.
That's what love sounds like.
That's
Love
what
is
reason
just somebody
says.
that's trying to be reasonable.
Yeah.
Come on, they didn't mean to turn right.
They don't know what they're doing. They don't know what they're
They were
doing.
trying to look at the road and look at the map at the same time while
Yes.
they're drinking their coffee. Come on.
Exactly, like you do all
Yeah.
the time. You don't need to run them off the road or shoot them on the highway just because they are driving too fast or driving too slow. So.
And that's where the teachers of God do come in. Is when the world's screaming, and by the way, no matter who they're screaming at,
Yes.
punishment. We're supposed to be the miracle workers. It would take a miracle to look at what you look at in the world and go, yeah, that measures up. That sure calls for a good stoning. That calls for a good 10 years in prison. Then to be able to call on all the power in the heavens and be able to see what nobody else is able to see. That's what the miracle is.
Exactly.
No, hold up. Don't swing the wrecking ball just yet. I think there's a solution of how this can be a win-win for everyone.
Exactly. There's a way of looking at this where everyone deserves love and loving correction. There's another way of looking at this that's loving for everybody, and that's what reason sees.
And when you're looking just to punish, you're in a courtroom and you're very focused. You've just got this person on the witness stand and you're just looking to punish, and you got the juries listening to you. You're just so focused. When you're focused on punishment, you can't see the mercy table anymore.
Yes.
You can't see yourself sitting up there on that judgment bench.
Exactly.
On that hot seat. You can't see yourself there. And so you cannot see another way of doing it because you're too focused once you get on that punishment. And at any time though that you're in that vein of dishing, even if you've been dishing out punishment, but you catch yourself
when you're mad,
even a day into it, it's still not too late to pull the plug on that disastrous story and realize, oh, I believe I deserve punishment. That's why I'm doing this. Oh, geez, is that true? It's not really about them. They showed up to hold a mirror up to show me what is inside of me.
Yes.
And okay.
All right. That's you calling upon reason.
That's me calling upon reason.
Exactly. It says madness is an attack on reason, and it's an attack on reason that drives reason out of mind and takes reason's place. So here I'll put in the word love. Madness is an attack on love that drives loving logic out of mind and takes love's logic its place. Now here's what reason does. Reason, first and foremost, does not attack. Okay? So what's the first thing that madness does? Attack.
Tries to punish.
Yeah,
Attack.
exactly. Punish, attack. So first thing madness does. The first thing reason does is it does not attack. And then what reason does, the next thing reason does, is it quietly replaces the attack thought, if it be the will of the insane to listen to reason. Isn't that beautiful? If it's our decision, if it's our choice to listen to love's logic here, then love's logic, reason, will quietly replace the madness, just right then and there. Quietly replace it. You know, reason doesn't attack madness, it just quietly replaces it if the insane person wants the reason, wants the loving logic. Isn't that beautiful? Okay. But the insane know not what they want, because the insane believe that they see the body, and the insane let their madness tell them that their madness is real. That's what people who are insane. Notice it's saying madness and insanity are synonyms, you know, and so when you're insane, your insanity is telling you that your insanity is real and is the only way to see it, and it only deserves punishment. Now, that's how, if you're experiencing anything like that, that's how you know you're insane. That's all the characteristics of insanity. It's a definition of insanity. Okay? So, then it says, now reason, love's logic, would be incapable of doing that. And if you would defend the body against your reason, then you won't understand the body or yourself. Okay? When we're insane, we're going to defend our insanity against the truth. You know, and even though sanity and logic is the most obvious thing there, you'll never see it. You'll continue to defend your madness, your insanity, your anger. You'll just continue, and you won't understand yourself at all or anything. That's what insanity does. Insanity defends its anger. When I'm insane, I defend my anger. When I'm insane, I defend my judgment. When I'm insane, I defend my hurt and my anger and my desire to punish. That's what I do when I'm insane. You know, when I don't want to be insane anymore because it sucks. And it hurts, and it makes me sick.
Keeps me up at night.
Keeps me up at night and makes me sick, body, mind, and spirit. And I go, love, is there another way to look at this? Love, what's your interpretation of this? Then here comes love, and it just quietly replaces all of that insanity, all the heat, all the malice, all the projection, all the pain of my insanity. Just quietly replaces it. The truth doesn't come in and go, that's stupid what you believe, Anna. That's ridiculous. What an idiot you are. Love's logic just comes in and says, thank you, yes, and oh, that was just a call for love. That was just a mistake. And here's the loving correction for that. It just lovingly and quietly replaces my madness. And I'm like, oh, I'm not mad, I'm not insane anymore. You know, love doesn't attack our insanity. But our insanity sure does attack truth. Absolutely. Okay, paragraph 5. The body does not separate you from others. And if you think that the body does separate you from others, guess what? You're insane. There's another definition of insanity. I think that our bodies separate us. I think that we have private thoughts.
Yeah, I was going to point out in the earlier paragraph, but the insane know not their will, for they believe. This is why we don't know our will, which is not to be punished. For they believe they see the body, We believe that we see the body and let their madness, and let their madness tell them that that body is real. And to me, it's like the Course is taking a shift into another gear right now. It's gonna put a little bit more fire in the engine, a little bit more torque to go up this mountain that we're trying to go up, because now it's talking about bodies. And I know I struggled a lot with this in my early days in the Course in Miracles, because every time it started questioning the body stuff, I was like, here we go, talking about, because we see the body. Well, of course we see the body. Why? Because the body's there.
The body's real.
Yeah, it's real. I mean, look at it.
Yeah.
It's there. And it would really scramble with my mind. Luckily, I had enough of the Course that showed me miracles that I couldn't let go of it. That when I came to stuff like this about the body, that I wasn't willing to let go of the Course. I was willing to stick it through. Because if you get this part, boy, it really does kick you into another gear in your life. This part about we don't believe we're spirit. You know, God is spirit, Creator is spirit.
So are we.
And so are we. And we, just like that old belief that we believe that we deserve punishment, that old belief, we believe that we are bodies. Bodies, again, is the symbol of limited and punishment.
And belief in separation.
Yeah, and punishment, because the body is the symbol of that which is always suffering and dying. You know, always vulnerable, very vulnerable. Spirit isn't vulnerable to anything. Spirit is invulnerable. Spirit is all powerful. The body's not all powerful. It's the symbol of that which is very limited. And we're hiding our little spirit, angelic being that we are hiding in this little curtain called the body. And in this curtain, the body, we believe that we deserve punishment. You can't punish the spirit, that's impossible. But you can appear to punish a body. And so we're pretending like we're bodies, because that's the only way that we think that we can feel what punishment would feel like. Because in our natural state of being a spirit, we can't feel punishment. We can't feel any of that. So we had to create something that we think we are, this limited little piece of flesh and bone, and so vulnerable, and convince ourselves that not only are we that, but that deserves punishment. And if you don't believe that, just look out at the world. The world is a testimony that we believe bodies deserve punishment.
Exactly.
Illnesses and pains and all, whacking and concern, trouble. So it's really going to open our eyes up right now as the body does not separate you from your brother. In this belief creation that we made, I believe that I'm separate from her. In other words, she can deserve punishment and not me. And so I'm going to think that I'm going to dish my punishment out on her, when it's really me in this belief system that I deserve punishment. And the truth of that is in me doing it to another. And thinking that she's separated from me, so it doesn't really affect me. But it does, because we are one.
Exactly.
The body does not separate us, and that's what the Course is going to try to slowly wean us into right now, is this idea of understanding that you're not a body. You're spirit. You're not that which deserves punishment.
Exactly. You see, the body, paragraph 5, the body does not separate you from others. And if you think your body separates you from others, you are insane. But insanity has a purpose, which means insanity believes it also has the means to make its purpose real. So to see the body as a barrier between what reason tells you must be joined must be insane. Nor could you see the insanity if you heard the voice of reason. Because what can there be that stands between what is continuous? And if there is nothing in between what is continuous, which is us, then how can what enters part of us be kept away from other parts of us? This is what reason tells you. It says this is what reason tells you. But think what you must recognize if this be so. What is it that I must recognize if it be true that we are all continuous, that there's one mind, and this one mind isn't separated by bodies? You know, what must be so if that is true? Okay. Now, so it just gave us the logic, the truth about that bodies don't separate us at all, and which means that whatever is part of some parts of us is part of all the rest of us. Okay, what's in them is in us. What's in us is in them. There is no bodies that separate us. So what's in part of us is in the rest of us. What's in them is in us. The bodies don't separate us. There's one mind, and we are it.
We all came from the same place. We all came from the same image.
Mm-hmm.
We all came from the same creator, from the same source.
Yes.
We're all the same.
Yep.
And so once we think that we're deserving of something for one, then we need to realize that that applies to all, including ourselves. If I believe that you deserve punishment, then that's literally, Abraham Hicks, right? One of the things that I love about in her teaching is this concept. If I punish you, that is me shouting out my belief, what I believe is true, that if any of us deserve punishment, if you deserve it, or if you deserve it, if any of us, I think, deserve punishment, then that opens the door wide up to the possibility then that I could somehow deserve punishment. And so I'm calling, it's like you're calling out to the universe for punishment, for punishment to come to me, like as she describes it in her vortex. You could call it your Santa Claus bag. It's going to show up in your bag, and you're going to pull it out and open it up, and not like the gift that you gave yourself, which is some form of punishment. And that there is the reflection of oneness. Is I want to punish Anna because I think she deserves punishment, and then next week, or in the next few days, or seemingly in my life in the next few hours, something happens where I stub my toe or poke my eye, and I feel like I was punished, and I'm hurting, I'm in pain. Something happened that made me feel sad, depressed, upset, not happy. And I don't realize it came from what I did. I called for it. When you read paragraph 6, would you insert those two words you were talking about, love and fear?
Sure. If you choose fear instead of love, or we could say if you choose separateness instead of oneness, then you're condemning the children of God to what can never be corrected. Okay? So when you're choosing that they be guilty and sinful, needing punishment, then basically you're saying, you know what you did can never be corrected, and oops, I guess that means what I did can never be corrected. Okay? If I am choosing to see guilt and sin in you for what you did, that's a sin. you're guilty. Then what I'm saying to them is, I condemn you to having something that can never be corrected. Which apparently they're doing the exact same thing to me. When I give somebody guilt, instead of seeing it as a call for help, when I go, ooh, guilty, sin, ooh, then what I'm saying is, you have something in you that can't even be corrected. It's so bad. Can't even be corrected.
Even God can't.
Not even God can fix it.
You deserve punishment.
And then what am I saying to myself? Oh my God, those things in myself that I feel ashamed of, oh my God, those things can never be corrected or fixed. That's what I'm telling. I'm condemning myself to that when I give somebody else guilt for an error that I'm calling a sin. Okay? The Course in Miracles defines sin as a mistake that can never be corrected, not even by God. So, and then the Course says, but there's no error that God can't correct. So that's why there is no sin. But when I see guilt in another, I am seeing that's a sin. And what I'm really saying is, I'm condemning you to something that can never be corrected. Which means that's what I'm saying about my own stuff that I feel ashamed of. You know, oh my God, this is so bad. Not even God could fix this. You know, how depressing is that?
And I believe that because it's the way I treat others.
Yes, exactly. And you're telling them this by your choice that they are damned, separate from you and from God forever, and without a hope of safe return. That's what you're condemning others to when you see guilt in them instead of an error that's calling for correction, an error that's calling for love, that's calling for help. That's what you're doing. You're condemning them to, forever to sin without a hope of safe return. That's what you're saying to them, and of course to yourself. You teach them this, and you will learn of this person exactly what you taught them. So if you taught them that is so guilty, they can never be corrected, it's not just a call for love, calling for help. It's a sin that can never be corrected, that's going to damn them to hell forever, then guess what you're going to learn from that person? Recently, I have been listening to live. Wonderful. Sorry, the messages go by so fast.
The messages come up like this, and then
they fade.
And they fade.
I need to figure out how to slow them down. So, thank you for writing. I wish I could.
We will go back after the class.
Yes, I will.
Read through
The comments. And also, I just realized that next week I could have the live class going on another device. So that I can see the comments and respond to them in real time. So just know that I'll be doing that next week. And I really thank you for commenting and your participation. We really appreciate it so much.
Yeah.
Okay. So he's saying that if that's what you're teaching them, that's what you're learning from them. Exactly what you're teaching them. Because you can teach them only that they are as you would have them be. And what you chose that they be is your choice for yourself. So if you want them to, if you're going to teach them that that's not an error, that's a sin that can't be corrected, then that's what you are learning from them, and that's what you're teaching to yourself. Now, is that what you want to teach?
If it's a sin, again, the way you're going to demonstrate it, you're going to attempt to punish them.
Which is giving them guilt. Which is giving them guilt, you know. And so, you know, is that what you want to learn for yourself? Do you want to learn that what you feel guilty about can never be corrected by love? That you're going to be damned to that, what you call a sin, forever? You know, is that what you want for yourself? Do you want whatever mistakes you've made in the past? Do you want to be damned to them, by them forever without any hope of loving correction? You know, of course you don't. Of course you don't. You know, the things that we feel ashamed of, that, you know, that are just mistakes, but we call them sin, and we feel ashamed of and hide them, all those things within us, ultimately, they make us sad and depressed. They don't make us happy. We want those old mistakes that we've been feeling ashamed of to be given over to the light, to be corrected by love, so that we're not damned and cursed by them. Well, the only way that we can have our own shames, errors, corrected lovingly by love, whatever they are, is to see in others not sin, not guilt worthy of punishment, but just errors that are calling for love, that are calling for correction. You know, that's all we want to see in them. Call for love, call for love, call for love, call for love. Not, ew, guilt, sin, oh God, ew, gosh, I would never do that. Guilt, 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 sin. You know, we don't want to damn them to their sin, because we don't want to be damned and cursed by our errors that we call sin. You know, I want to be healed of all those past mistakes, but the only way I can do it is that when I see them reflected in another, that I call it what it is, a mistake, an error, calling for loving correction. What would you see in innocent, so we can see ourselves innocent, and we can see only the blessings in our own? Beautiful, exactly, William, beautiful. Gotta read it fast. Yes, and so if you want your own errors corrected, if you want the things you feel ashamed of, the things that you damn yourself for, damn, I can't believe I did that. Oh, I feel so bad. Oh, I can't believe I did that. I feel so ashamed. Damn, I can't believe it. If you want to be released from those in yourself, then when you see them manifested in other people, go call it like it is. That's a call for love. That's a call for help. That's an error calling for correction. I make that same error. I make that same error. And I make that same error. And it's just an error. And errors are for correction. So that's how we want to be responding to the ego that we see in others. Okay? Because there are no private thoughts, you know. All right. Now, paragraph 7. Oh my goodness, 72. Yet don't think this is fearful. What's the this that we think is fearful? It's the there are no private thoughts. That whatever we see in them is exactly what we see in ourselves. Okay? Don't think that there are no private thoughts is fearful. Don't think that our minds are being joined is fearful. That we are joined to them is but a fact, not an interpretation. So don't see the fact that you're joined to them as fearful. Okay? It's a fact, and it's not an interpretation. And how can a fact be fearful unless it disagrees with what you hold more dear than truth? Reason will tell you that this fact that we're joined with them is our release. That's what reason tells us.
Once I realize that we're joined and see how that's a benefit and not a curse, in other words, if we weren't joined, then I could punish them and get away with it. But the fact that we are joined, if I punish them, then I'm going to be punished. Then I'm asking for punishment. And so when I realize that's how it works, then I can go, well, oh, that puts me in control of this now. I can help guide the ship. And to help guide the ship is now to realize that old golden rule, to treat them the way I want to be treated, because I realize we're joined, because we're one. And so now I want to help them, as Anna says, so that when I make an error, somebody doesn't slap me in the face and kick dirt in my face and call me a bunch of names. They actually they surprise me and reach their hand out and give me mercy and help me. Exactly what I need at the time when I tripped and fell. And so it's so beautiful to know the power that we hold, that That's why it says, think not this is fearful. Don't think it's fearful that you're joined, and the way you treat them is the way you're going to be treating is the way you believe you should be treated yourself.
Exactly.
Look at it as a benefit.
And like insurance, like every time somebody around you is in their ego, they're insane, saying insane things, doing insane things. Literally, if you can see that as an error that's just calling for love or correction, then just like Greg says, next time you're in your ego and you're insane and in your madness, then somebody's going to respond as if, with help instead of an attack. And so really, see it as not just release, but insurance for your future. It's the best kind of insurance there is.
It's exactly the metaphor of when your brother or sister has done something that you're interpreting, by the way, doesn't mean it happened.
That's right.
But you're interpreting as offensive, and your reaction is to punish, to give them guilt, or to put them in timeout, to attack them, emotionally, verbally. Whatever you do, just literally put yourself in their shoes for a moment, because that is what you're doing.
Yes.
And it is literally the metaphor of what you're planting in that moment is going to be what you're going to eat, the produce.
Yes.
What you're going to eat. Whatever you plant.
It's going to be
right
your future.
Now, I want to plant punishment.
Yep.
So that when I trip like they just did and did something that we all know nothing's too great for love to conquer and overcome, that love can overcome this. That when I have the same thing, and when I treat them with love and mercy and helpingly in a good way like that, man.
Yeah, exactly. That's your insurance. That's your release from future pain.
Right.
You are literally, it's the ultimate insurance.
I thought this was going to happen, and just at the last moment. Why? Because you waited to the last moment to decide for mercy in your story.
Exactly.
But maybe just at the last moment, all of a sudden this happened, and whew!
Yes.
Wow.
Exactly.
Thank you, Lord.
Because so reason will tell you that the fact that you are joined with them and what you give to them is what you're asking for yourself. Reason will tell you that is your release. That is your gift. That is your insurance and your protection in the future. So that's beautiful. And that's because neither you nor them can be attacked alone. Period. You can't attack them alone. Okay? You can't attack them alone and not also attack yourself. Nor can you attack yourself without attacking them. Attack is not discreet. Of course, the miracle says attack is not discreet. If we're one and you attack one of the one, then you've attacked the whole. And so now when you remember that about attack, you're going to think twice about offering somebody else something besides mercy when they've made a mistake, especially a mistake that you've made 1,000,000 times and are going to make 1,000,000 times.
We just read this week in the study lessons that holding a grievance is an attack on God's plan.
For your happiness. Exactly. You could say attacking somebody and giving somebody guilt for the mistake they've made is literally attacking your future happiness. And seeing their mistake as just a mistake, calling for love and correction, calling for help, is literally protecting your future peace.
Now, because you and I are in the old belief system still, we're in the old way still, which is believing that we're bodies, believing that we're separate. We still believe that I can take away your happiness right now by giving you guilt, and that won't affect me.
Yes, that's what we believe.
That I can take your happiness away right now
by giving you guilt.
by giving you guilt. or however I do it.
And keep my happiness.
And keep my happiness.
Yes, exactly. He says, so neither your brother nor yourself can be attacked alone, but here's the reverse, the happy reverse. Neither you or them can accept a miracle instead without the other one being blessed by it, which means healed of pain. Aha, that's the positive side of it, you know. The negative side is that because we're one, I can't hurt myself or you without the other one of us also experiencing pain. But it's also true, since we're one, that I can't accept a miracle release from pain without you receiving a release from pain miracle as well, vice versa. You know, so the fact that we're joined is our release. It is our release, not our doom. Okay, so that, and then now it's 8 o'clock. So
yeah, I want to, since it's 8, I want reason like love would assure you and not seek to frighten you. Every story we've ever heard about an angel coming, the testimony usually is the first words out of the angel's mouth is, "Fear not." Mm-hmm. The angel always wants to make you feel, what does it say here? Love would reassure you. The angel of God, you and I being the angel of God, would reassure God's child right away. Fear not.
Comfort you.
That would be our first word, because it's our first thought of our agenda, is don't let this child feel fear. And that angel already knows the universal process, that if it showed up and went, whoa, and you were frightened, that it would be itself asking to be frightened.
It would,
later.
and it
so
wouldn't be
right
love.
away, it's demonstrating what it wants for the future. Fear not, because it itself, that angel, does not want to plant a seed to receive fear later. So it's always entering in with that mindset.
Exactly. So if you're hearing something that's not reassuring and loving, and reminding you that you're joined to another, then you can be sure you're not hearing the voice of reason. You can be sure you're hearing the voice of madness, or the voice of insanity, the voice of the ego. But reason is like love. All it wants to do is comfort you, you know. And when it tells you, hey, you know, that person, you are joined with them, what you want for them is going to come to you. That's a loving, reassuring thing. That's not meant to frighten you. That's meant to help you to give to them what you would like to receive. You know, the way to decide what you want to come to you is not, okay, I'm going to do my vision board because this is what I want to come to me. How we determine what comes to us is what we give to others. You know, that's what determines your future. What are you giving now to others? You know, that's how you create your future. You know, not affirmations and vision boards and whatever. You know, what you are giving to them now in answer to their call for help is what determines your future. And reason, like love, is using that fact to reassure us. You know, it's a loving thing. I believe that's why changes from ACIM seem to take so long. The Holy Spirit is gentle and will not frighten us. Exactly. That's exactly right. Reason, like love, it doesn't force its will upon us, whereas the ego does. And so the ego's things seem to happen more quickly, you know, whereas love waits on welcome. So love's got to wait for us to welcome it. So that's very true, William. Beautiful.
Something about this whole thinking we deserve punishment belief. You can prove it in the fact that when somebody comes at you with some punishment and they make you feel guilty, you automatically stem from that to thinking, okay, now this is probably going to happen, and now that's probably going to happen, and maybe they're going to leave me then, and maybe that. And so we anticipate all these even worse punishments to come from the first punishment we heard. But when do we ever hear of the first love? You just had this wonderful thing happen. And then we think to ourselves more loving things that are probably going to come from that. We don't. We enter into, I'll probably lose it. It'll probably get taken away from me. It'll probably get broken. Somebody might steal it. And we tend to enter into that punishment mindset again. It's so evident. And that's what we're being encouraged to break away from that. To not be a slave to that mindset of punishment. And once we do, boy, our whole world's going to turn. We'll be now first and foremost accepting for ourselves not the need to be punished. And it will be exhibited through the way we treat others. It'll be manifest by the way I treat others. And that will be the beginning of plowing that old belief system into the ground to never be discovered ever again. Is just working more and more, even if I can't remember it in the moment when I get upset, have a grievance against a brother or sister, is to just pause for a moment and ask myself, is this what I want?
For myself.
Is this what I want for myself?
Exactly.
Every time I get upset, if I could just carry a little card in my pocket around and pull it out real fast and say, when you get mad, upset, angry, blah, 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 pull this card out and you pull it out. Is this what I want for myself?
Exactly. You know, remember, what you want for them right now is what is coming to you. What you want for them is what is coming to you. Okay? And, you know, if we use that, like you said, as our guide for how to think about others, how to respond to others, oh my, you know, we would be ensuring for us a future where when we are mistaken, we receive loving correction. Okay. So, beautiful. All right, guys. We're so grateful that you joined our healing circle. So grateful. And thank you for joining. And, you know, go read the rest of the section. It's really amazing. Really, really helpful.
Yeah, the last few paragraphs are worth dabbling into.
Absolutely.
Have a great week.
Love you guys. Appreciate you. We'll see you next time we see ya.
All right.
Happy to be ya.